What's going on, everybody? And welcome in this historic, legendary moment. I'm making my little video debut here in my channel. Welcome to D-constructing Topic Podcast Network. As you can see, somewhere on the left here, I'm a little bit new to this thing going on here. It's funny because this is my debut in my channel, but I've kind of did a couple of rounds there a couple of months ago. Give a shout out to Angel Rivera and the Angel in Afternoon Show, part of the INN Network, and Miss Witchy, who has a podcast. They both have wrestling podcasts. And one thing that you're gonna hear in this little introduction that I give you for those people out there that have not subscribed to my channel or to my podcast, please do so, and feel free to comment and share. Because right now we on some historic moment. Yeah, that podcast is Pro Wrestling Talk, and I was there a couple of times. I've been there a couple of times. It's been a while trying to get back on live, but we here on this Deconstruction podcast. Because in my podcast, we talking it all, a little bit of everything. We talking about motivation, inspiration. We talking about politics. We talking about education. We talking about history. We talking about a little bit of all movies, music, a little essence of everything. Ooh, that's what this podcast is all about. And let me just share here, because I had a little hiccup there. Boom. This is my page right here. Oh, yeah, that's the Deconstruction Topic Podcast. And look at this. Boom. We got different episodes here, embracing the universe, getting back on track. Because I'm over here. You look, my thing is this, is that one of the mottos that I use on my podcast is that saving a mind is saving a life. That's for sure. Look at that. We got Puerto Rican pride thing going on there. I was there not a couple of, what was it, like last month? We got all that. Powers of affirmation. We talk it all on this podcast. And I finally made my debut. And I'm going to say finally made my debut here in the radio podcast world. Because today I believe that we are going on a historic moment in this channel. And not only in this channel, but in my life as well, and in the life of yours, because we're doing big things, that's for sure. One of the things, oh, look, I got OJ Simpson, Kobe Bryant, and one of the reasons why I started this podcast, and I'm going to tell you this crazy thing about this podcast, because this brainchild of mine, it's been like, we're talking about 20 years, and it's been 20 years in the making, that's for sure. I'm gonna stick with this thing right here because I want to address this. It's funny because one of the things that we was talking about, matter of fact, one of my what I would call. Let me just put this here because I'm over here. I'm over here touching buttons and all that. But hey, listen, I don't want to mess up this podcast because this is like definitely historic. What's interesting? A couple of days ago, one of my mentors. She reaches out to me and she says, David, I apologize. There's so much that's going on in my life and so on. And, I thought that I listened to all your podcasts. And there was this one podcast that I thought I've heard it, but unfortunately, I'm sorry, I just did. And it's the podcast where it talks about having a dark cloud that's hanging over your head. And it's interesting because last weekend, I kind of, how can I say it to you? I was addressing something that's been bothering me for like years. And it's a conversation that took place with somebody that I felt very endearing, and I still do. And it's definitely not, something that is not over, but it's something that I needed to address because it was like a dark cloud that was hanging over my head. You know what I mean? And it's crazy how the conversation that took place last week was 4 years in the making. And people say, and look, my thing is this, and I've shared my life a little bit with people because I go back to Kobe Bryant. One of the things that he teaches is that share the art of storytelling, I'm sorry. Because one of the things that I've learned in life is that when you share stories, you might be saving other person's life. And one of the interesting, crazy thing about last week and what happened with the situation with the individual that I call her the artist. the Miss Universe straight from Shaolin Land. If you know about hip hop, you know that little reference. Shaolin Land. I say no more. But I'm just gonna say about this. It's ironic how I started a podcast because I'm trying to save minds, because saving a mind is saving a life. And I spent 4 years of my life saving somebody else, in this case, Miss Universe, the artist from Shaolin Land. I spent time, caring for that individual, and that's another story that we'll touch in another podcast. But it's interesting. What we're gonna be talking about is that how ironic how sometimes in life, uh, you kind of, how can I say to you? What I noticed is that when I was saving that person's life, I was saving that person's mind, and I was saving that person from an island of obscurity. I was destroying my own life. And yeah, that will be in an upcoming podcast in itself, a video podcast in itself. It's gonna be crazy. And I go back to that mentor. Shout out to her, where she said, David, I'm dealing with something similar. And we kind of sat back and we kind of went back. And I'm gonna tell people this. You see this right here? It's good to have something like this in your house so that you could remember a time where something hit you and you could have just said, wow, I could have made that change. Because what happened to me last week, it was something that happened to me where it was 4 years in the making, where I knew exactly the conversation that took place last week. I knew that conversation was going to take place 4 years ago. And all I've been spending is life trying to survive because I was so in an ocean of obscurity. And one of the things that, believe it or not, my podcast have been able to save my life. And I want to give shout out to a lot of people, but it's funny because I tell people one of the most important things that you could do when you wake up is you want to be grateful to the people that's there for you. And look, I got a little thing going on here before we end the my little debut going on. I got something to talk about here, but I always want to tell people, if you can, to wake up, to be grateful, and don't forget the people that's been there doing good things for you. Because trust me, there'll be a time that when you need somebody, nobody's gonna be there for you. That's for sure. I got a little hat going on, Roberto Clemente. I'm also gonna talk about that. I got the little glasses going on because this light right here, it's not go, it's not working with me. Like, come on, man, what am I supposed to do here? You know what I mean? Change light, come on. But I go back to when you wake up, and in case in my life, I wake up, I go to the gym, and I want to give thanks to the people right there, the gym that I go to over there on 23rd Street. We got a little family going on there. We got different type of people. We got my Asian brothers and sisters. We got little Caucasian, white, Irish brothers and sisters out there, all types, tall, short, skinny, little chubby, a little boom, boom, boom. My black brothers and sisters out there in the gym. Shout out to those people out there. And to my Haitian brother who told me a couple of months ago. He said, David, you're going to be famous. I take it back, David. You're already famous, and it's a pleasure knowing you, and I came across you. That right there, that's the way that I start. Shout out to that family right there in the gym. And as I walk out of that gym, going to my job, what better than my family that's at work? Shout out to my brothers and sisters in arms there at work. They complete me for sure. Some of my podcasts, I actually kind of practice with them and whatnot. And whatever topic we're talking about, we go sometimes deep when we get a chance. But that's my family right there. Shout out to my brothers and sisters out there. I got a couple of mentors out there. Shout out to them as well. When I start to think, and I start to think about my past and people that have been there in my podcast, people have been one of my brothers out there from high school. Shout out to him, that individual. You already know, from Maine over there. It's funny because when I listen to my podcast, so I take it back. When I go to my administration website where I know who's listening, well, I take it back. I know what state they're listening to. Shout out to Maine over there, New York, Virginia, Florida, Texas, Colorado, California, Germany, Russia. Just saying. We got people, Albanian. Hey, you already know why I got my Albanian connection from. Shout out to that brother right there. So that's what's going on with this podcast. But it's one of those things that where I said to myself, because we got to show love and what exactly is going on. And let me just show you this right here. 20 years ago, right? And then you see this right here? It says mayor. That was 20 years ago what I thought. And let me tell you something. It's somewhere down the line. People always told me, David, you should run for mayor. You should do this. You should do that. And there's people out there right now, not too long ago, they were already giving me their signatures because we need signatures. We need a lot of stuff. And I'm saying to myself, like, hold on. Mayor of New York City. That sounds interesting. But to be honest with you, something that I thought about, one of the things that I love to do is I love to help people. But last week, I'll be honest with you, and I'm sorry that sometimes I put my head because sometimes I have to kind of rethink. And last week, I had one of the most emotional weekends that I ever had. You know, addressing that dark cloud. 'Cause sometimes I tell people if you need to move forward, if we need to make the best version of ourselves, then unfortunately, it's one of those things that we gotta address. Now, sometimes I'm not a fan of going back in time, but at the same time, we have to. And just to give you a little piece of what happened last weekend, um, it's one of those things where I'm gonna say is this to people: never, ever forget the hand that feeds you, and never, ever forget who was there for you when you needed the most. Because you know what, the universe will just delete you. And I was thinking, how can I be the mayor of New York City if the universe doesn't even know that I exist? And it's one of those things that we'll touch bases on why I say that. But it's one of those situations that I said to myself, we gotta make it happen. But then I started to think after Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday, you know what? I don't think I could be the mayor of New York City. And I hate to disappoint people out there because there's people, hundreds of people, even I think close to something, thousands of people that reach out to me in a couple of months. It's like, yo, David, you should be, here's my signature. What we got to do, we need you. This city needs you. And I said to myself on Tuesday, unfortunately, and I hate to burst people's bubble, but there's no way that I could be mayor. And it sucks. You know, 'cause what happened last week was one of those situations where I said to myself, what the hell happened? How the hell did I destroy my life? Or at least I was doing something for someone and making those sacrifices and then go out there and tell the world that I could be mayor of New York City? It hurts. I mean, it hurts to say this. It's something that I always wanted to do for a long time. And as I go back to 20 years, I'm going to share this story. 20 years ago, and I think it's going to be 20 years next year, I was sitting behind a car seat, a car. I was lost. I was in an island of obscurity, somewhere lost where I just didn't know where to go. If darkness was a best friend, then darkness was my best friend. Because I used to go to sleep just trying to reach out and just imagine and just calling help. And it was a one faithful night on the 4th of 20 of what is it, 2015, 20 years ago. I was in the back seat and there was so much going on. And prior to that day or prior to that chilly fall night, I thought that I was gonna be over. That's it. It's over with. I get into that car, sitting on the back seat with two my coworkers at that time. As we going driving from White Plains to the Bronx, As I'm sitting on the back, just chilling, my leg just laying down, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh my goodness, what's gonna happen?" And one of the things that I see is I see a car just passing by us, and the next thing, the driver loses control, and I see the two headlights just going back and forth, left and right, left and right. And all I remember is grabbing the back seat, and all I said to myself, "This is it, God. This is how I'm gonna die." And I kid you not, on that moment, I thought that my life would be over. The car flips, hits the guardrail, and it flips the other side of the highway, somewhere by the grass, somewhere. And I remember, I believe that I came out the car. My theory is that I came out the car, went back in. I had lumps. I was bleeding, and then I hit the two other gentlemen that's in the front 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 rows, the driver's seat and the passenger. And I'm like, "Yo, guys, okay? I hear this, okay?" As I'm walking, crawling out the car because I'm like over here. I need to get out. As I'm crawling out the car, I said to myself, "What the hell is going on?" As I get up, I see the back wheel just, and then I look on the bottom of my left foot. I see my left foot hanging. Yes, I saw the bottom of my left foot like just hanging. Like, what the hell? And I remember I fell, and ever since then, my life has been in a journey. Because, like I said, we embarking on a journey. We embarking on something crazy. So last weekend, and once again, I'm gonna do a podcast, upcoming podcast on that situation right there with the artist. But it was one of those situations where I just like, wow, there's no way that I could become the mayor of New York City. And even it's funny because even that person kind of say this city needs you. I think you'll be great. But you see, sometimes in life you gotta understand it in the universe. If someone played you like a fool, then the universe gonna play you like a fool. And throughout my life, all these people who've been telling me, "David, you'll be doing great, David, David, this," perhaps they just play me like a fool. So as I sat there on Tuesday night, you know, my foot was hurting, and I said to myself, you know what? You know what this universe, you know what's missing in my life? You know what's missing in that situation that happened to me? You know what's missing? You know what? I do believe that there's people out there that need people like me, positive people. I do believe that I could become the mayor of New York City, whether it's next year, whether 4 years from now, 5 years from now, when it's the next election. I do believe that. And I definitely would need your help. But I said to myself, you know what is the one thing that I've realized that I'm missing in my life? And it's me and talking. I'm over here talking to the universe. Universe, you and I haven't been on the same page for quite a long time. See that the universe was trying to like kind of knock me out of this life, but I got a strong heart. I said to myself, I believe. And when I decided what exactly this city needs, it doesn't need a mayor. It doesn't need a good mayor. It doesn't need me. People don't need me. That person from last weekend didn't need me. I'm just gonna be just another regular Joe on podcast. You know what this city needs? You know what this universe needs? For once and for all, because I say this is historically, it needs to acknowledge me. Let's make it happen. Woo, yo, that's it. I had everybody bugging out, but yes, I got so much what's going on. And welcome to D-constructing Topic podcast. Roman Reigns, acknowledge me. Let's go. Because sometime in this world, for those people that are listening to out there, those people who have felt like giving up, sometimes you gotta say to the universe, it's that time for me. And it's the time for the universe to acknowledge me. Cheers, or we making it happen. So let me tell you a little quick story about this right here with Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente, a baseball player, former baseball player. Oh, there's something good here. Former baseball player who died in a plane crash on December 31st, 1972. And he has a tremendous heart, just like I do. Might not be the best of the best, but I got a people's heart, just as Roberto Clemente, just as a lot of people out there. And I want to shout out to my other family, my sister, brother, mother, my extended family, my two little, what I call fake little brothers. You already know who you are, my peoples that I do my gaming with. You guys, all my brothers, my sister, I love you all. I know you guys miss me on the Xbox scene a little bit, but I'm trying to do big things here. See, Roberto Clemente, when he took that plane on December 31st, 1972, is because there was an earthquake that happened in Nicaragua a week before. And he decided to take a plane. Now, he was not the pilot, but he decided to take that plane because he sacrificed himself. And sometimes the universe will sacrifice people for the better of others. And that's a crazy story that unfortunately, once the plane took off within 5 minutes or 5 miles or whatever the case, landed outside of Puerto Rico, the plane wasn't found. If I'm not mistaken, nothing was found. But I want people to understand sometimes in life, that's what happens. Sometimes life sacrifices people for the better of others, sadly. So it's one of those situations where I found myself last weekend, 20 years ago. I said to myself, life, universe, not today. Because today, and at this moment, on July 27th, 2024, and look at me. Now, I got these glasses because of this damn light, but trust me, I'm here. I'm a real person. I got real eyes. You know what I mean? Trust me. We're going to make something great happen because, woo, in this city, it doesn't need a mayor. It needs a mentor. It needs somebody like me. In this country, it needs a mentor. And there's a lot of people out there just like me that are ready to mentor and ready to take over from the suckers out there that claim to be our leaders or whoever's in front of us going out there talking nonsense about who's who should be running, why. It's regular people who finally will stand up and make things happen. And for sure, New York City, I hope that New York City is ready for its first mentor ever. Now, the elections for mayor is next year, November 4th, 5th. So let's see, because I would need, if I'm running independent, I would need a lot of donations. They need a lot of cash, need a lot of everything, need a lot of love. Woo! Or we making it happen. But you see, I'm planting the seeds in this podcast so that we can be ready collectively. You who are listening to out there, my family, and there's a lot of people, whether it's guy Angel Rivera, shout out to him. I did give a shout out to him. Trust me, I didn't forget people out there. Like my Haitian brother said, David, you're gonna become famous. You're gonna be something, and it's an honor to meet you, and an honor and a pleasure that life and the universe put me in you in my path, because you are my inspiration. And just like I got a few mentors, there's a couple of mentors out there, two sisters in arms that I look out, that I call them my big sisters. You already know who you are. I appreciate from the heart, for sure. Now, once again, it's one of those situations where I just want to end this beautiful podcast with this. BUILD, Bill. And if I'm going to become the mentor, the first mentor of New York City. Now, sadly, I think somebody said, yo, you should run for president. Do all that. I wasn't born in this country. I was born in Puerto Rico. My understanding that I cannot become president. If there's a constitutional lawyer out there that's going to be listening to me, if we can find a loophole, hey, let's make it happen. Because like I said, New York City needs help. The Bronx needs help. Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island. Woo! Everybody is gonna get it. You're gonna get a mentor. You're gonna get a mentor, and you're gonna get a mentor. Right? One of the things that if you're gonna make it happen, be yourself at all times. Be yourself. Do not be phony. I think last weekend, the little sister in arms. Like again, we got a combo pending for sure. Uh, this little universe, as I call her. She said something about that she doesn't want me to feel like she's an imposter. And I know at the same time she's trying to be yourself, but in reality, have you been yourself? Have I been myself? Have we all been in ourselves? Sometimes we have to practice this 24/7. I love boxing, and I'll give you a quick story in boxing. Is that I love boxing, and I think that in boxing, they always say protect yourself at all times. You just never know. Somebody might want to sucker punch you. So you take that mindset, be yourself. Universe. Now, this one universe, what I mean by this is that everybody, let's say there's people who have kids, beautiful job, beautiful this, whatever the case, and they always say, this means the word to me, this means the word to me, this means the word to me. Sometimes you have to realize that there's more to that word than meets the eye, and it's the whole universe going on there. Because that whole universe, let me tell you something, everything around you, everything that's important to you, everything has a moving part. So always think, don't think that, yeah, I got these two people and that's all I need. They're the word to me. Great. But universe is where we at. I want people now. Funny is this because when I started doing this, from last week, and I left it like this because this is where my mind was. I couldn't even spell independent. So now, when my mind was clear, I was able to read it. And independent means think on your own. Don't let negative. Don't let other thing. I always said about these things, and I talk about this on my podcast. We're gonna meet a lot of positive people, but at the end of the day, but you want to surround yourself with people that's not easily influenced by negativity. And right there, independent, think on your own. When I talk about politics, don't let these, certain political parties dictate who you should vote for, whatever the case may. Because there's people out there are independent that think on their own, that they are not, corporate, puppets or whatever the case might be. But think on your own, be independent. Just think on your own when it comes to life. Don't let people manipulate you and change the way you think. Just think on your own. L stands for love. Love everything that you do and love everything that you're about to do. That's all I can say. And love yourself for sure. You have to love yourself. And that's the main thing. When you start to feel that you feel that love for yourself, the sky's the limit. D. Now, D stands for determination, and that's another thing too. That when we want to wake up, we want to feel determined that we could do something, and I'm pretty sure that we can. But I want people to feel like determination is that one thing that we want to wake up to. We want to do something great, and we want to do something magical. So determination is one thing that keep that in mind. You want to determine. You want to put your goals. You want to do that. In one of my podcasts, I started, in the beginning of the year, it says what you willing to sacrifice for 2024. And then you put it out there in your word, you put it in this little thing going on here, this little mini whiteboard. I suggest people get it, $10, 11. I mean, I would suggest if you could find this on your local stores instead of going to the, online in the bigger stores. But whatever. To each his own, it's like $10, $11. But one thing, and I want people, and I'm going to end this video podcast, I love for the people out there. Don't forget. And if there's one thing that was breaking my heart last weekend, and I'll be honest with you, I had an inside tear. Like people, maybe that's the reason why I wore this. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I don't want people to think that I'm weak or anything like that. Don't forget, man. You should never forget the people that fed you. You should never forget the people that was there for you. Don't forget that. Because if you decide to forget it, and I understand that there's certain people that might have experienced drama or trauma in their life, and I get it, but don't forget. Because if you decide to forget the people that was there for you, that tells a lot about you. And it's not about one being an imposter. It becomes a little bit more than that. So I just want to end this beautiful podcast by telling everybody, if you're going through something, if you whatever it is, if you think that you could grab this and say, okay, I'm there. If you think that you could be also a mentor as well, I'm there. If you think that you could help me become a mentor and help you, let's make it happen. I'm gonna put all my links. We doing it. But once again, I just want people just don't forget. Don't forget. And I'll leave this with once again. Sometimes you gotta act like the tribal chief. And let me tell you something real quick before I forget. There's something good here. I'm just saying. Let me just tell you something. Remember years ago, a long time ago, I had an energy partner, spiritual partner, if you will. And she said, "You remind me, if you was an animal, you would be a wolf. Because all this life you've been alone and you've been surviving just like a lone wolf. But you in a wolf pack together with people, you're gonna be invincible. Hence why even 10, 15, 20 years ago, she said, David, run familiar. And what's interesting, what she said, and I remember she said something very interesting. I'm going to try to see if I could pull that here. Let's see. Hold on. So she basically just said to me, and I'm going to find an image on the next one, is that you remind me of the wolf. And what's interesting is that even though the lion and the tiger is stronger than the wolf, you will not find a wolf in a circus because it cannot be tamed because it's that smart. Ooh, woo! Let's make it happen. Much love out there. History in the making. I'm out. Peace. Woo, woo, I'm out.